Hello, welcome to the final installment of our first Saga Online Press The Sessions series. This one is creating the character, part 404, and this is the conceptual creation of a character for one of the books that we're going to do about a team of superheroes who were created by the government, thinking their powers were based on technology, when in truth their powers were actually natural. This character doesn't have a name yet because basically he is just a prototypical idea of what the characters are going to kind of look like in the field. This is the second take of this video because I didn't realize that there's a couple of long pauses in the work because of how I do the process of recording the work. There's some long pauses that can't be avoided at times where I might be messing with something you can't see in the viewfinder, and because the camera recording is in one room and I'm in another room, more often than not, I can't quickly adjust the camera to see whatever menu I've just opened up to address an issue. So hang in there. We got 14 more minutes, and our first series of 4 videos is over. By this time, you probably spent about an hour with me to draw this character. That typically speaking, if I was sitting there with a computer and no camera, no program to record everything, then I'm not taking an hour to draw this much work. This is probably about maybe 30 minutes. But with all the recording and running back and forth and power and all the different technological stuff involved to make this thing happen, it took about an hour and 15 minutes to draw this much. Again, early in the video, this is not a tutorial. This is not an instruction. This is not a how-to. This is a conversation about how this one guy who's talking does his work on his website, sagaonlinepress.squarespace.com, where you can go and check out the Blurred King podcast. You can check out the Saga Online Press webcomics, and you can check out these videos. Right now, I am adding detail and looking at the different options I have going forward for these characters. I have not decided yet if I want solid metal pieces or instead a collection of smaller metal pieces that have been kind of patched together on a carapace or a carapace. I forgot exactly how you say that word, but a hodgepodge of doodads and gadgets. Part of me is torn because the story is that they actually have superpowers and they don't need all the technology. So maybe the technology looks highly fantasized, but because it isn't really functional, it doesn't really matter if it looks functional, because that'd be kind of a tip off to readers who don't want to who want to be surprised in the future, and they're like, oh wow, that kind of makes sense now. That it looks like some weird fantasy, whatever, what have you, even though in truth it is junk wrapped around his arm, and the real power is within. That old chestnut. There's more to the story than that, so don't feel like you've just gotten the whole thing ruined. That isn't really the big reveal. Every story I write, there's some sort of study of a what if, what would this character, or what would you do in this certain situation? This is what I would do if I was this particular person living under these particular circumstances from this particular background. That's kind of how I write all my stories and create all my characters. My first book is the Lineage of Dirge, and it is the what if of that story is actually what would the world be like if energy was limitless. And in that story, the limitless energy is magic, but you don't really see the application of that question in the first novel, which is available on Amazon. Just look up Dante R. Maddox, and you'll see my first novel. It's $5 for the novella and 99 cents for the Kindle. And basically, the second book on our lineup for Saga Online Press is called The Legacy of Dirge. And Legacy of Dirge takes place 5,000 years in the future of that story. And that is a more direct representation of what the world is like when energy is not a limited resource. Magic being the energy in question. There are some animes that kind of dealt with that idea in one form or another, and I just want to maybe add a different perspective, or well, maybe it's like this based on that same premise. So I don't expect it to be reminiscent of another popular story, but there probably will be unavoidable links to some animes that do something along similar lines, only on the terms of unlimited energy. But right now, you'll see that there isn't a lot of consistency in terms of how the little pieces of technology look. And the reason, again, is with conceptual art, I might only like his shoulder harness. And that may be the only thing I take from this drawing at the end of the day. And for each character, there might be anywhere from 30 to 40 drawings to make that character. His hair may not look like that. I might use that hair for a different character entirely and make this guy bald. I don't know yet. But it's important to do this sort of thing to kind of get a gauge of what you want to do now that you've seen an example of possibilities. People feel like if they're working for themselves, they don't have to do all of that. But the truth is, you're selling yourself short if you don't. You want to look at the various ideas that you have in front of you from an objective viewpoint, especially if you're the writer, the artist, the editor-in-chief, the paymaster, which, of course, since I'm not making any money yet, I don't have to pay myself jack. I just tell myself to get to work. But yeah, like I remember sitting in art class and having to do like 50 thumbnails of some art project and groaning, but immediately going, part of me is groaning because it makes sense. Like, damn it. It's a reality. It's an inevitability that I knew that moment, that when I was first assigned to do that many thumbnails for a class project, that I was going to walk away from school doing that for my own personal projects as well. It just made so much sense to do it. And now I don't do 50 thumbnails for any particular one project. I might do 10, 15. I mean, I will. But yeah, it's one of those things where if you get in the habit of doing it, you'll be able to gauge how much, how often, and all those good things. So again, my Photoshop, when I'm using it, doesn't do what you're seeing it do in this video. That is just basically my poor tablet having enough processing power to run, and that's just about it. And so it's not smooth, but it's kind of a happy accident. It allows me to kind of keep up with the action enough to talk about different subjects and topics and not feel like I'm chasing the end game of my own work. Right now I've paused, and this is actually the second take of this video audio wise, because the pause was unexpected. I forgot that I had paused this long. I think that I had to help a very small human being with a diaper. Long story. Short story, he's small. But he's not mine. He's a friend's kid. But I gotta keep an eye on him from time to time, and today was one of those times. Okay, so we're back now, and I'm technically gonna be done soon. I'm gonna put some boots on him to see what those boots look like. There's gonna be another long pause. I think I had to get up and do something. I don't have my own workspace exactly yet, so stuff happens. But I thought to leave it in because it's sort of like honest. It's just honest what stuff happens while. Oh, here we go. So I had to get up from the computer. That's why I moved that thing down. I must have, at the last seconds I was getting up from my computer, which sits in my lap, is a Fujitsu tablet, so it sits in my lap. I must have slid the bar down with my light pen, and now it's going to sit there while I do whatever it is I'm going to do for like a minute and a half. So this guy walks into a bar. I'm gonna have a swig of this beer and swallow it. So unprofessional. So unprofessional. While we wait for me to get back in the past, as I talk here in the present, which you'll listen to in the future. Speaking of listening, I have the Blurred King podcast. The first podcast launched. Oh, here we're back. It launched a couple days ago on sagaonlinepress.squarespace.com. I will get rid of the Squarespace soon, but it costs a lot of money to get my unique domain name. So I gotta just save up some dough from my job and buy it. So it'll just be squarespace.com pretty soon. Or no, sorry, sagaonlinepress.com pretty soon. But until then, it's .squarespace. And it's called the Blurred King, because I'm a black nerd, the king of the black nerds, the black nerd. Like he said, Nick Fury is the spy. I'm the black nerd, the blurred king. Bow before your blurred king. So that podcast talks about all kinds of stuff because I'm a information nerd. So I just know a bunch of crap that would get me on Jeopardy, but outside of that has no use whatsoever unless I want to talk about stuff, because I wrote as a pop culture writer for a number of years. That was my gig, and so that makes me a mild personality associated with pop culture. I don't like using the authority word on common knowledge. That sounds like someone who is an expert on crossing the street. Like, it's common knowledge. That's why it's called popular culture. Everyone should kind of be up on it. You don't need an expert on something that everyone knows about. However, I'm pretty good on obscurities. So, I talk about a wide range of subjects. And that's what we will do on our podcast. We'll talk about everything. And I say we in the royal we because I hate it just being me. Because then it kind of sounds kind of sad. Like, oh, that poor guy is just doing all this stuff by himself. Well, you know what, though? If I make a ton of money, it'll all be mine. So, this is what I usually use reference for. Is drapery. The sagging of the boot around the ankle is very important to give it that sense of volume. Like there's a wrist, or there's an ankle in there. I'm gonna do this boot thing, and then I'm gonna make some adjustments to the leg to get a little bit more beef, and then I'm gonna wrap it there because, as far as the concept drawing goes, I've actually gotten a lot of useful stuff. Again, those boots may not make the final cut. He might have big, thick, military dungaree type pants that are baggy, as opposed to the tights that you see here. You never know. That's the fun part of drawing that I don't get to do as often because a lot of my stories are old. Like, I've created them years ago. And now I'm finally writing and drawing them, so there's not much conceptual work to do. This is one of my newer concepts, and so I get a chance to sit down and develop it. And I don't get that opportunity as often as I used to. I have notepads and art pads up the wazoo that are filled with drawings going back to like 91, to now. Well, at least 3 years ago when I stopped drawing on an art pad, of character designs and sketches and notes. And I have computer files everywhere with story ideas and Bibles for universes of characters. And so a lot of this stuff is in the can in such a way. So I get a chance with this to do something absolutely brand new and share it with you. We're running low on time, so I'm going to tell you that this book won't be seen for a bit. I have to finish the Legacy of Dirge book and then develop this further. Check, hopefully in a couple of days, for the next installment of the Blurred King podcast. Check back for more videos soon as well. For SagaOnlinePress.squarespace.com, this is Dante Maddox. Thanks very much.